Alright, sure, something I've been wanting to do for a while now, and that would be Space Engineer stuff. I've basically had this game since week 1 or 2 of when it got put up on Steam. It's basically a sandbox game. I mess with it every now and then. They add stuff in. Their update day is Thursday, so whether it's bug fixing or new things, they throw stuff in. Like here's one from a while back. 5.14.2015 Xbox controller support, new mission added, modding support for upgrade modules, and they did put out their source code in regards to for modders, so that way they can actually work with it better. So the workshop leads to Steam Workshop, new world, load world, join world, which joins a multiplayer world, options, help, credits, exit to Windows, report bug, recommend, but new world stuff. Quick start, custom world, scenario, and tutorials. The tutorials are basically scenarios, but this is what I've been wanting to try for a while now, and that would be these tutorials. So let's start rating them. Movement and tools. My only problem with this is that the description box needs to be bigger, because it's the input description box, not like reading description, so you'd actually have to go there, save, leave, go back in, and then read it. But they're basic, intermediate, advanced. They only have the 8 basics up right now. The tutorials are relatively new in regards to the game. So everything starts out with spawning in a meta room. Accepted to faction. Alright, first off, mouse, W, S, A, D, press spacebar to jump, press L to switch on personal light, which would be basically a flashlight. V is to go between first and third person. Now, these are the bedrooms. Pressing T is the generic use button. When you're using it at this panel here, you get back health, you get back energy, but you don't get back oxygen, which isn't enabled in this mode, so we don't need to worry about that. On this side, pressing T gets you this, which basically means that you can mess with the spacesuit color. We'll go with a nice yellow-ish. J is taking helmet on and off, which if there was oxygen and we had to worry about that, it wouldn't be a problem. If there was no oxygen and we had to worry about that, we would lose a chunk of health. Anyway, spacebar to jump. Yay. C to crouch. So far straightforward. Shift to sprint, which is more noticeable when you're in third person than at first. Alright, so that door is automatically set to open, probably through a sensor. Press I whilst looking at cargo crates. It's easier when you're trying to use stuff to go in first person than in third. So this is I button, it's just inventory regardless of whether or not you're actually doing anything. But if you press it here at a cargo container, on the right side is the inventory you're looking into. If I wanted to be a terrible person, I could pull out the uranium, at which point this will end very badly because none of this would be powered, and yeah. Anyway, drag the grinder to your inventory on the left side of the screen. So in order to use the grinder, which is in that bottom right corner that I'm ignoring, you press G, which does this, so it's all blocks, but character tools, it automatically puts it on the bar if you double click it, or you can drag it. And then grinder tool. Grind through the armor wall ahead by selecting the grinder and holding the left mouse button. Left mouse button is generic tool use button, or put down block, so that way you can build it button. And then, unfortunately, that actual gravity thing in the bottom right corner is minorly annoying, but where you see the steel plate, for instance, the 0.5, that's how many plates are actually used in that. If it's a full block, it'll have 25, because that's how many go in a normal block. And then when you're grinding things away that have components in them, you take the components components and put it in your inventory when you're done with it, as long as your inventory volume can hold it. And everything is by volume, not by mass. The mass affects other things. The volume is what's actually important for how much you can carry. Access the cargo crate below to pick up components and weld tool, drag or control click them to your inventory. And then equip like before. Repair the button panel below by selecting your weld tool and holding left mouse button. Once repaired, press T to use the buttons. So as you can see, construction component 0 of 10, computer 0 of 20, construction component 7 of 10. The blue line is the point where computer and ownership comes in. That's nothing to worry about right now. It's probably more in the advanced settings, or advanced tutorials that they'll end up putting out. So yeah, if you just left click it once, all the components that you had in your inventory that would be used to fill it up are there, so your actual inventory volume goes down, which is important if you're building things. And you can basically just left click and hold down, it'll complete it. T to use the button. Okay, so all these blocks so far have been created blocks. That stone is an asteroid, and it's just stone. If it was a type of ore, it would be a different color. Alright, so access the crate to add the hand drill. Left mouse button, yada yada yada. Hold the right mouse button to dig a large tunnel. Now this is something I didn't know till I actually went through this tutorial once, and this was part of the first set of tutorials before they put out the other ones. And that is, left mouse button makes you a hole about this big, and is used for mining. And I think I managed to just do something accidentally. So you'll get stone like that. Ooh, that's organic actually. Interesting. So this is weird. Okay, so this is technically a planet, I think. Okay, because the organic matter is supposed to be part of the planets that they're putting out. Did I just find something I wasn't supposed to? Anyway. That's for mining. If you just want to make a hole in something, and again, that's about the size, but if you right click it, you make a much wider hole, and you don't actually mine anything off of it. So you basically just make yourself a hole big enough so you can go through it. Now, I'll admit, I'm a little curious here. Okay, so I can't do anything because I can't grind away at this block, because they said it to be indestructible. Probably the same for the other side. Yep. So yeah, anyway, next part. Press T to use the blue panel to open doors. So anytime there's this yellow square, or rectangle, depends on what you're looking at, pressing T is a use button. Pressing K at these control panels gives you access to it, so I can toggle it on or off. I can have it set to open or close, so I can do it this way. If I toggle it off, no matter what I do, it won't work. And that's basically control panel stuff.
Objective
That's
complete.
tutorial 1. Let's see, what can I do? Now, all this stuff is indestructible, but for some reason this window isn't. So I have to do a celebratory space dive. Now, you see how it has artificial gravity, actual gravity in the bottom right corner? That's the downward force, and the nice little vector going in the direction, so that way you can tell when you're floating off with a jetpack which way is which. Bottom left corner, stayed standing or crouching or whatnot with jetpack, helmet on or off, health, jetpack on or off, dampeners, which only matter with jetpack, on or off, lights on or off, mass, speed, energy, volume, radio, broadcasting. So my volume is red because it's inventory full. And space dive! Space! Also these particles are relatively new, so you can tell which way. So since I don't have a jetpack because it would automatically work, I'm still moving the same direction I was at the same speed I was, even though there's no gravity, because vectors. So, yeah. On to part 2. Part 2, Inventory and Terminals. Also, load screens have quotes. So once again, spawn point, respawn point. Pick up some of the rockets below by looking at them and pressing T. You can see them in your inventory. Okay, that's me pressing a button I didn't need to. That's blueprint stuff. Don't worry about that. Pick up some of the rockets below by looking at them and pressing T. You can see them in your inventory by pressing I. So press T to pick up 200mm missile container.
Inventory full.
And then when you can't carry anymore, it yells at you. Approach the square conveyor hatch on the rear of the missile block. You will see a yellow square with triangles in each corner. Press K to access the cargo inventory. K does it, I does it. Either one will work. So move the rockets over. When you have loaded the rocket launcher, press button 2 to fire or blast a hole in the stone wall so you can walk through. Now it says button 2, button 1, button 2, 3, 4. And that did not make a big enough hole. So, yep, now we can go through. And this is a station-sized missile launcher. Now that trailer's for a reason, we'll get into that later. So, try not to walk on the components, they could get kicked away, there should be 15 steel plate, blah blah blah. Pick up the components below and load them into the cargo container nearby. Lights will turn off when you've picked up all 5 component stacks. So, flashlight. This is what motors look like when they're down your inventory. Computer chips, construction components, large steel tubes, and steel plates. Okay, so approach and closely look at the center of the cargo container, see a yellow square, press K to access the cargo inventory, personal inventory on the left side, yada yada yada, drag the stuff. So basically, all we have to do is move all this stuff. And then over there is a welder. All this stuff, conveyors, basically it pulls the inventory from that cargo container all the way to the welder when the welder's on, because it needs to use it to finish that. So, when you've loaded the components into the cargo container, press button 1 to turn the welder on. The welder will automatically do stuff. Activate the piston with button 4 when it's done, which should be any time. There it is. And then that will cause that to go down. You need components in your inventory to be able to place blocks. To place light armor requires steel plate. So pull stuff out of this. Press G. Move the light armor block. And it requires different amounts whether we're talking small ship or a large ship and station. Large ship and station use the same amount. In order to place a block down, you need to put 1 component. So like for instance, the steel plate required 25. That actual gravity is getting really annoying. You just need whatever's in the bottom of that list to put it down, regardless of whether or not you can finish it. Since we don't have a welder, we can't finish it, but the actual support structure is there so we can walk across it, which is actually really useful when building stations. Also, it can save time if you just want to sort of see how the layout goes in regards to, oh, I'll put a block there, or I'll put a block there, and no, I don't like the look of it, so you don't have to actually weld everything in place. The reactor is out of reach, but is connected to the station grid, which means it can be accessed from control panels. Control panels can be found on many different blocks. They work the same way and gives the system access to connected blocks. Blue panel is control panel. Access the control panel by pressing K and messing with things. So control panel. Small reactor. Just for show, it does actually have uranium in it, but it's not on. Now it's on. Now this goes on. Access the control panel, label supply power, blah blah blah. Now that the power is on, access the control panel and locate the group rotor bridge. Press the button labeled reverse and exit the control panel by pressing K to see the effects. Groups are a way to apply settings to a collection of blocks that are always displayed at the top of the control panel list and are encapsulated with asterisks. So groups. Rotor bridge. Toggle it reverse. And then there we go. And up there's a sensor. And slow moving hangar door.
Objective complete.
And tutorial complete, which means space dive. Space... Okay, tutorial 3. Tutorial 3, energy. Energy is really important. If your suit runs out of energy, you die. If your station has no energy, nothing works. Basically, power is everything. Now I haven't explained the faction stuff, but basically, and this is going into this menu system again, faction stuff is for access to certain things, so it won't let you mess with certain things that you're not supposed to, so that way you can't break the tutorial in regards to all of a sudden the information you needed isn't there or whatnot. Energy is also replenished when sitting in a cockpit seat, flight seat, or control station to enter a seat, blah blah blah. Often preferable to a bedroom because the recharge is automatic. So like I mentioned before, when you're standing in front of the bedroom and you hold down T, you'll get your energy back. But if you're just sitting in one of these, so like for instance cockpit, next up flight cockpit, and then like I said, the yellow squares or whatever shape they may be. So here we have one control panel, two control panel. This is more for flying, as opposed to flight seat here, which is just for sitting down and getting power back. And then the first one is, as I was sitting there before and it zoomed out, this is like the station-wide one. Power is transferred through any block connected to a power source. Power does not transfer through asteroids. To proceed, take some uranium from this reactor, place it in the reactor in the hangar doors, and it'll bring the button controls online. So what you can do is you can left-click drag all of it, control-click, which, because it's my push-to-talk button, does tons, or right-click and drag, and then it'll be amount to add, and then you can fill whatever you want. You don't actually need a lot. Uranium for this part is fairly straightforward. So we just place it in, power on, and then everything is glowing because they set it to show that, hey, stuff is on. If this reactor was off, that side panel would be red, not green. Okay, solar panels. Solar panels don't need fuel like the reactors, so they're good in that regard. However, they need to be exposed to sunlight. So activate the pistons to expose the solar panels to sunlight. This will provide power to the blast door. Depending on the position of the solar panel relative to the sun, they will generate a variable amount of power. Red light equals no power, 4 green lights equals maximum. So red light on the bottom, and then it's left to right in regards to how full. So pistons, open that up. So that's at 1. Those are still off. And then 2. And then this should still keep increasing. 3. And that's basically it in terms of you have to make sure sun hits the panels. Because that's not completely hit by it, and not straight on, it's not going to get the full power. Okay, batteries. Batteries store power, which can be used later. It's a good idea to have some as backup. And they're actually really good with solar panels. Decent with reactors. So once again, they give us a seat to recharge. Set one of these batteries to discharge power. Access the control panel by K and tick the semi-auto. So these are batteries. The blue is full power. So here we have battery 1, toggle on or off, show block and terminal, show block and toolbar config, name battery, show on the HUD, semi-auto, sets to recharge when stored power is 0, sets to discharge when stored power is max, or recharge, it just recharges. So open the hangar doors. Okay, merge blocks and join two separate grids together, aligning the building lattices, which is useful for connecting separate ships. They require no power to function, an advantage that have over connectors, which need both sides to have power to lock. Once merged, both grids are seen as one, allowing power to flow through. So these square ones are merge blocks on the pistons. And then extend that because power's not getting connected. And then those two should fit in. Yellow means close, green means lock, power's on. Piston bridge. And gotta jump. Because I have no patience. Okay, supply power to the far side by constructing a line of blocks across the asteroid section to connect the two stations' power grids. Pick up weld tool and steel plate here. Now, you don't need to finish it to actually have power go, but let's see if I can actually get a good vantage point on the other side. Okay, so that control panel over there is off. Now it's on, the lights are on, so power goes through. If you weld these blocks, they'll be stronger, so that way they actually don't take damage and whatnot, and the power is better. But since we just need to connect it, we don't need to finish them. So final door trigger, sounds, stuff going on, lights everywhere. And I'm just going to close that door and lock myself in.
Objective complete.
And tutorial success. This time though, unfortunately, the windows aren't breakable. So on to part 3. Also, this is the escape menu. Save, save as, options, help, exit to main menu. Oxygen. So this video, from my understanding, is probably just one of the update videos that they put out on Thursdays whenever they put new things in. Or introduce new things. So respawn, accepted defection. Now in the bottom right corner there's oxygen none and we have our helmet on. But if we take our helmet off, we slowly start losing about 7% of our health. So heal that away. Alright, so pick up hand drill here. Okay, so air vents will light up green when a sealed interior. Multiple green lights indicate density of breathable air. Yellow light indicates the air is not airtight. Place ice into oxygen generator, which is this thingy, to make oxygen. We'll need to mine all the ice, takes a lot of air to fill a large room, blah blah blah. Oxygen generators produce oxygen from ice placed in inventory. Processed oxygen can be dispersed into sealed interiors with air blocks. Within pressurized environments, it is safe to remove your helmet by pressing J. So, yep, basically, use your hand drill to mine with the left mouse button so we can actually pick things up, and then press T to pick things up. So, because this is not stone, and it's actually something else, it tells me the distance it is from me when I have a drill in a hand. At which point it will slowly but surely actually mine away and whatnot. So like for instance gold will say gold, everything will basically tell you what it is when you're mining it or how far away, so it's really useful for when you're trying to find an asteroid with something in it and it's below the surface of stone. Or sometimes below another material altogether. Also, it should be mentioned I now have 3 times the inventory space. This is one of the things you can set up when you make a new world. That might be enough, let's see. Okay, so the area is airtight. Let's see how long it takes to fill up this room. I'm actually going to mine a bit more ice in case, while the room fills. So when you scroll over stuff like this, the ice, the 48.7 for instance, the 31.8, that's basically the amount you're picking up in your inventory. Now it doesn't always subscribe to volume, it's more in the mass. Okay, so oxygen low in the bottom right corner will still kind of take damage, just not as much. Oxygen high, no damage whatsoever. Okay, so when the environment's pressurized, it should force the room to open. I think I need more though. That's a big chunk. So that particle basically is to show that the room is pressurizing, depressurizing. Okay, 100% fill this tiny room that's behind the glass with O2 to proceed. Oxygen farms are slow to fill rooms, but require ice to make oxygen. So, require no ice rather to make oxygen. They're basically solar panels, but for air. So there's a vent up there. Oxygen farms will continuously generate oxygen when exposed to sunlight. Open the roof by activating the rotor. When it has stopped moving, extend the piston to fully expose the oxygen farms to sunlight. So, activate rotor. I could horribly destroy all this stuff by just pushing it up right now. But, that's about 8 different types of bad. So not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. Still not yet. Why not? Again, that might... Nope, I think I just managed to get away with it. So like the solar panels, they have the 4 buttons, or 4 lights rather. Red is off, green is how much they're actually working. And then this is going up much faster than it did before. Also, the crab walk is a bit odd on the third-person mode. But this is what happens when you're a space engineer. So 85, 86, 87. Keep going. 88. while I'm here, so stuff that can be done, the voxel hands, ignore that stuff. The window blocks, minorly ignore that, sorry. Character animation is what I was trying to go for. So there's a wave, victory, thumb up, and a facepalm. So there's the wave. There's that for victory. Thumbs up, and a facepalm. Vents can be used to depressurize areas and recover air into empty storage. This allows for less wastage when building blocks. Airlocks, sorry. These oxygen tanks are full, the stockpile mode off, and set the vent to pressurize to fill this windowed room with air. Oxygen tanks can be set to stockpile oxygen so you have a backup supply in case of emergency. So stockpile off, depressurize off. There should be the vent kicking in, which opens that up. And where is that sensor? There's usually one somewhere. Oh well. Another vent. Oxygen generators and oxygen tanks can also be built into small ships to supply directly to the cockpit. Sorry, supply. Yeah, never mind. Oxygen bottles can be refilled from small ship oxygen generators and oxygen tanks, but oxygen bottles are too large to fit through the small conveyor tubes. So here we have a ship. Those are small conveyor tubes on a ship and whatnot. If you want to fill bottles from oxygen tanks, you will need to manually instruct them to fill or tick autofill. Oxygen bottles can be filled by placing them into oxygen generators or tanks. If you carry an oxygen bottle in your inventory, it will automatically replenish your suit oxygen when it runs low. So in the bottom left corner, our oxygen is 69%. When it hits about 30, if we have a bottle on us, it'll automatically kick in. And the bottle's good for about 2.5, 3 uses, and it'll auto-do it. Now, if we take our helmet off, in this oxygen environment that's deprived, we would horribly, horribly be in trouble. Also, new save point. Finish welding the armor blocks to create an airtight seal in the room to proceed. The air vent in the roof will turn green when it detects a sealed environment and begin oxygenating. Not all blocks form airtight seals. You may need to conduct your own tests when building personal projects. If you encounter this problem, experiment by building armor blocks around suspected leaks to try and identify the culprit. So as we can see, space, air goes out. And then weld tool steel plate. So far, I feel like a couple things may have been out of order in regards to how they should have put all these things. I feel like the energy one should have come second, but then again, it sort of didn't need to be explained. The seats were just being there for no reason in those early levels if you don't know. The function of recharging, that is. And to be honest, you don't really need to recharge in the first couple ones. If you're taking your sweet time with these, then maybe. So I generally prefer to actually weld in third-person mode. So with that should be ticking. Oxygen low. Okay, so with the helmet off, my oxygen level in my suit is not going down. But it won't go up either. That's something I wanted to bring up earlier.
Objective complete.
And once again, space. But I can't go to space. Anyway, next up, part 5, I think.